And here we are with Mr. Alex Smith himself. How you doing, my friend? How you holding up? I
Yeah, I'm
mean,
not too.
I'm buzzing for this. I'm buzzing for this one.
I'm very
Off,
well, mate. I'm very good.
off the bat, where do we start? So I've been stalking Instagram for a little while now. All the medals, all the competitions. So life without competing. How you holding up with that? Not having to worry about your weight and this, that, and the other.
Um, well, I remember seeing one of my training partners. I didn't see him in a while, and he said to me like, "This whole thing must be obviously killing you," because I one of the main reasons obviously I do jiu-jitsu is for competition, because I just love like the build up to it. I love really getting stuck into my training. It gives me like it makes me set a routine of when I'm going to train, what I need to do. Weight wise, I don't really need to worry too much because I compete at heavyweight and I walk around normally like round 91, 92. For heavyweights. It's under 94.3, so including the gi, it's not too bad. So weight wise, I don't really have to worry too much about that. And being a heavyweight, I can generally obviously eat what I want and when I want as well. So, but yeah, the amount of training that I did do, like going to a competition, always keeps my weight down anyway. So I never generally have to worry about that.
Now, the nature of obviously your military background and also the nature of jiu-jitsu, obviously almost polar opposites in the sense of one's very heavily organized, one's very, this is how we do things, versus jiu-jitsu is sort of not ambiguous, but in the sense of different ways of doing things. Like, how do you find those kind of like polar opposite kind of attitudes to things? Do you lean more towards the jiu-jitsu side of, there's different ways of going about, or very much, okay, this way I've got to do things, I've got to prepare this way for a comp, this, that, and the other? Like, how are you with that
Uh,
kind of side of stuff?
well, like military wise, because I remember listening to Kev on your podcast as well. Obviously, like depending on what you are doing within the military, it sort of depends like how hard your routine is. It just depends what sort of job you're doing. Because like at the minute where I am before I was here I was on a squadron, so we was training, like doing training packages, doing range packages, like continuous training within work with work stuff. So it was like very regimented there. But like now I'm part of like recruit training for the Air Force. But I sort of know we've got like a set routine, but it's like obviously more relaxed than when I was on a squadron as well. So like I know when I can go training. I can plan my life. Like literally my first day here, when I met my sergeant, he was like, "Yeah, we've literally got a planner for like the next 3 years, so you can plan your life around there." So it was very relaxed and very chilled here compared to what it was when I was up north on a squadron. So, and I'm absolutely loving life down here. It was like one of the best decisions I made was to come down here. But we can start at like the beginning of how I started jiu-jitsu and then go through it that way. But I don't want to like obviously spoil it too much, because if I go on a tangent, you'll be listening to me for hours. So
I mean, I'm not sure if you heard the podcast before, but it's kind of how it works. The conversation sort of side of things and telling stories. So I think
yeah,
we won't be too far on, I think. So there's a lot to go into, but first off the bat, I've caught an Arctic Monkeys poster in your background, and I can't go over that. That is spot on. Most important question on the podcast: what's your favorite Arctic Monkeys album?
oh,
Oh, there we go. These are the real ones. Alex Turner's getting a bit FT right now.
oh, well, it was I think it was his birthday yesterday. Actually, it was like his 35th birthday. I see it on like Instagram. Well, anyone who's like obviously followed the Arctic Monkeys from the very beginning, you're not going to be whatever people think I am. That
Mm.
album is just unreal for like their first album, and it still remains. I'm pretty sure it still remains like the fastest selling British album, debut album of all time. That sold like some 360,000 copies within the first week, and that album's just amazing. But for like my generation's probably that album's probably there like the top one, but I think everyone probably agrees that AM is their best one. But each album's got amazing
Mm.
songs on, but AM's amazing. Not a lot of people was a fan of the new album of Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino, but I love it, and I actually got their Royal Albert Hall vinyl the other week as well.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's a flex. That's a flex in
yeah,
itself. That's to say,
it's
with the different albums, it's so nice hearing the transition, how their sort of styles change. Not even just the music itself, the way they've changed as well. Like Favorite Worst Nightmare as well. You go through us, you see them performing. You see them not necessarily maturing and such, but more they're changing their style, the way they dress, the way they act. And again,
Yeah.
Alex Turner's still got his sort of, Sheffield Green sort of, accent and that and the other.
Oh yeah, he doesn't let anyone forget that he's from High Green in Sheffield. Not at all. Yeah, that is my favourite band. They're just amazing. They're so good. And I remember I think it was 2017 or 18. Me and one of the lads from work, we went through a stage of just going to gigs like every other week because like literally Halton's it's like a 40-minute train drive into London, so it's perfect for going to gigs. So we'd go to like the Camden what's it called, the Electric Ballroom in Camden. That's one of my favorite venues. Go to there, and then I remember him ringing me up one day. He was like, I don't need to ask, but I've got a spare ticket for the Monkeys if you want to go. And I was just like, when is it? And he told me the date, and I was like, oh shit, I think I'm competing the next day, but I'll still go. Don't worry. So I was like, because I was competing in London like the next day, so I like got the train into London, see the Arctic Monkeys, and I got back here at like 2 a.m, and I had to be up at like 7 a.m. to get to Crystal Palace, like for London Winterfall, I think it was. But yeah, unreal. One of the best bands I've seen live as well.
How'd the competition go?
I think I had a couple of beers the night before because obviously my mate was drinking. I think yeah. But obviously I was like, no, I've got competition tomorrow. I think I got silver in that category on that competition.
I mean, all things considered, that's not too bad going, is it?
It's not too bad.
I'll take that quite happily. Where do we even go? So everyone who came from jiu-jitsu specifically, have a bit of culture for it. You enjoy that. Where do we go from this? Okay. So obviously competed in the first place. Has it been something you've always sort of had part and parcel with training in itself? Has it been something you've always wanted to compete full stop, or has it just sort of happened as a side thing?
Well, when I first started training, like literally within a month, it was my first competition. It was only like an inter-club sort of thing in Manchester. I think it was, I can't remember the name of the gym, but it was the guy who runs the Empire Grappling now.
Oh, Jake Cross.
Yeah, Jake Cross. I think it was the gym that he trained at. They was running like it was like an inter-club sort of thing. And I just went there. I think I had like 2 matches. I managed to survive the first one, and I think I like lost on points. But then like the second one, I got armbarred, and like that day, I was just like, the only other competition type of things I've ever done before was like playing football at school or something like that. I used to like skateboard and BMX when I was younger, but no like competitions or anything. But yeah, as soon as I got from that first competition, I was just hooked on competing. Within like 2 or 3 months of training jiu-jitsu, I was like, this is something that I need to stick with. And competition wise, I'm just going to keep going to them because it's just something I enjoy. Like not the pressure of competing, but it's just that feeling of like building up to a competition. Like I've got something to work for. If I don't do my best to prepare, I'm going to do horrendous on the day and I'll feel even worse, sort of thing. So I always, like, for leading up to any competition now, it's like, it is a serious thing. I want to do the best I can. If I go to a competition and I lose, I'm not overly fussed. I just like, I've done my best training wise and done my best on the day, and that's all I can do. But like the best thing for me out of jiu-jitsu is like the competition element, because it makes me get in a routine. It makes me go to the gym. It makes me do my strength and conditioning training as well. And it's just one of the best feelings. And then like, as soon as I've like done the competition, like got the competition out of the way, I'm like, it's like a bit of a relief off my shoulders. And I'm like, right, I can chill out for maybe a week or 2 now. I can do what I want. I can have a few beers with my friends. I can just relax. And then I'll just find another competition and I'm good to go again, straight back into it. And that's just what I think.
So there's a lot in that's really interesting. The sort of that it all comes together in itself, and when it's not there almost full stop in that sort of idea. And again, this sort of, is it I don't know. I say the anxieties and the pressures, and again the sort of responsibility, I want to say, almost to sort of perform to even your standards. Would you agree with that sort of thing, that you want to be able to represent what you're capable of? That's like what you're putting that level of effort in as such.
Yeah, it's if I'm gonna do something, I want to do it to the best of my abilities. I don't want to half-ass it, so to speak. If I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it to a high standard. Especially like my jiu-jitsu, it's something that I literally like. I've adapted and what's the word? Not adapted. I've I've made space in my life and made
Okay,
decisions.
time for it.
Yeah, I've made decisions on my life based around jiu-jitsu. Like the other year when I decided to move down here was for jiu-jitsu, because my coach Kev Cable, his gym is 10 minutes away from my camp. So I literally looked at where could I go. I can go to Holton, message one of my friends down here, what's the job like? He said, yeah, it's pretty good. You know what you're doing. You don't get messed around as much. You literally, you can plan your life. And I was like, perfect. And my gym's like 10 minutes away. So that's perfect for me. And I literally upped and left the north to come down here. That's what I did. I literally moved for jiu-jitsu.
I
That's
mean,
what I did.
I'm surprised the criteria wasn't where's the nearest like Arctic Monkey sort of venue where they're going to play next sort of thing. Whilst in the same
Yeah.
conversation, I say near the train station anyway, should be all right. But that's kind of the thing, though. You make these sort of, I'd say sacrifices, but it's not. It's making that sort of movement and that allocating your time and energy and everything else. It makes sense. And
Yeah,
like you're saying there, regards to like not getting messed around. I mean, that in itself, it must be worth so much. Just knowing your schedule, so you can then have freedom as a result of that.
yeah, and because like when I was up north, like obviously being on the squadron, because we was on taskings and like you don't know what you're going to do and you don't know when you're going to go away. It was difficult to obviously plan, because I wasn't competing nowhere near as much up there, and the only training I had available um, was like 50 minutes away. It was this is when I just trained 10th Planet. There was a 10th Planet gym in Darlington, and I trained there for I think it was about a year, maybe a year and a half. Um, and then obviously I had work stuff going on as well, and I just wasn't getting the amount of training that I'd liked. And then because I was running a club on camp as well, just for like beginners. Like I was only a blue belt at the time, so I wasn't getting as much as I wanted out of the training. The only time I was really training was when we was doing like the RAF team meets every month, and that's like 2 days training with Kev or Dan coming down, or like if we had like a guest instructor. So that was my time to train. The other time was trying to teach other people really basic jiu-jitsu. So I wanted to, obviously, when the opportunity came up to move down here, I was like, I've got to take it because it's going to benefit me a lot.
Regards to the way you learn then, so like obviously 10th Planet's very much, they name every little step of certain things and it's very detailed and oriented in that kind of way, whereas having trained with Kev, it's more I don't know, more feel and more, not, what's the word I'm looking for? Not instinctive as such, but again, it's a bit more of an open kind of way of explaining things. Like, how do you prefer to learn in that sense? What benefits you more?
Oh, mate. Well, literally, my first ever jiu-jitsu lesson was a 10th Planet advanced class. And when I got there, I literally went in, introduced myself, met a couple of the guys. And then when we started, like did a warm up, like normal running warm up, all that sort of stuff. I was like learning how to snake or shrimp. And then I was just like, when he first started, I was just like, I haven't got a fucking clue what you're on about. Like, I think like the first thing we was going over was like the crackhead control, like into rubber guard and stuff. And I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about here. But then like because I'm quite tall and quite leggy, like rubber guard and stuff come very natural. So wasn't obviously I didn't pick it up straight away,
Very
but
one, yeah.
like yeah, it was like rubber guard was just like, right, okay, I just need to get my leg here and I can like obviously slow this guy down a lot. But like the difference between 10th Planet and like the way Kev teaches, like because obviously Kev's learned from Roger and Mauricio, they're very fundamental, slow down. Like I remember listening to Kev like old man, old school jiu-jitsu. And I still had I still obviously have elements of 10th Planet into my game, but I much prefer the like Kev and Roger style of jiu-jitsu, because it just it's just helped me a lot. Like like the way I've learned since living down here, my progressions obviously become a lot higher because of obviously I've got Kev and Dan and been training with like Mauricio and Roger. Then my progression was with the 10th Planet stuff. I'm not like 10th Planet is great and I still use some of it now, but like obviously learning from Kev and Roger, it's just like my progressions obviously been a lot better over like the past 3 years learning with those guys, rather than I think I was learning like I did 10th Planet for about 2 years straight before I even put a gi on as well. So
I mean, with the question itself, it's more to be around the way you learn more than you can see as in regards of like day one. I'm amazing you can get stuck with one like, we're doing A4, we're doing this, that, and the other. This is all we're doing like elevation hooks, this, that, and the other. But no, I meant more in the sense of, okay, are you very, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? Systemic in the sense you learn, okay, this is step A, goes to B, goes to C, goes to D, this, that, and the other. Or is it more intuitive, as sort of, okay, he's explaining these sort of pieces and they start fitting together further down the line. Like, how do you like to, I don't know,
I
understand things, if you
think
know what I mean?
I think obviously when you first start learning jiu-jitsu, you have got to have those steps, right? This is step A, this is step B, this is step C. But obviously the more you learn, obviously it's just instinct. Like some people pick up things differently, some people pick up things quicker, some people learn like obviously just looking at techniques. But now, like, 'cause obviously I've been training quite a while, like a lot of stuff's very instinctive now, but it's it's just like there'll be certain things that I'll just look at and I'll be like, right, this can easily connect to that position there. Like a butterfly guard, right? If I elevate this person here, I can really switch under the hips and go to like single leg X and stuff like that. So I can I've got to a stage now where I can visually look and go, right, I know those two positions will connect, or those two techniques will connect. But like obviously in the beginning it was right, I need to be shown step A, step B, step C. That's I think depending on how quick your mind can process things, everyone's different in that sense, I think. But for me it was definitely right, I need to see step A, step B, step C. But now it's just more right, I know which way we're going to go with this, or if we're going to go back, right, okay, we can go back to this position, or sort of thing.
Okay, sort of jump around topics a little bit. So when you're teaching, having your own experience, having both kind of, I don't know, environments, do you try and, I don't know, mimic either side of it? Is it more explain it the way you understand it? How do you like to teach based off your own experiences of how you learn?
I don't, when I'm teaching, like if I'm teaching like the RF team, or when I was even teaching like when I was a blue belt on camp, I didn't want to, because obviously some people are the same, where if you get overloaded with information, you're going to forget so many things and you might miss those steps out. So I really like to obviously break stuff down. And if I'm doing like an hour class, I'll probably only do like 2 or 3 techniques, because I'd rather have, for me personally, I'd rather be good at, I think like the old sayings, like don't be afraid of the guy that knows 1,000 techniques,
Mm-hmm.
who drills like one technique 1,000 times. I'd rather get the very basic fundamentals, or even like obviously like more elaborate techniques. I'd rather really break them down, drill them so many times that I just don't forget anything. Obviously everyone forgets simple things sometimes, obviously in competition and everything, but it's just like muscle memory. If you know, right, I need to go to this position now to get this frame in, or I need to do this straight away, I'd rather be doing that rather than be one step behind the guy or whoever I'm obviously training or competing against. But for teaching, I'd rather just break down 2 or 3 techniques, very basic stuff, because that's what I found with like Mauricio and Kev. Their techniques, like Kev even said before, is very like old man, old school jiu-jitsu. And everyone knows what Mauricio's like with his techniques. It's like slow, pressure, heavy.
Pressure.
Yeah, like I describe it as you want to be a steamroller. You want to be that heavy and that slow that the guy can't do anything. Just make someone as uncomfortable as possible, no matter what you're doing.
Ugh. I was just thinking about his knee and Bay giving PTSD, but that's another conversation in itself. But that is interesting though, trying to keep it very sort of simple, keeping it very digestible. I think that's a lot of people get. I don't know. You get the John Danaher's, I love the sound of their own voice. And think, okay, I don't care about the inside Senkaku, whatever, like Japanese origin, the name of something else you've made up. I just want to do it. Like, how do I do
Yeah.
it? It just gets a bit like excessive. In regards to your competing in itself, and regards to the way you approach competition in those matches, do you approach it the same way you do in sparring? Are you very much methodical in the sense of, okay, I've got points to score, I've got to do these certain things in certain ways? Are you very concept heavy? Or are you just sort of autopilot? How do you switch up for competition?
Well, probably up until I started training at Kev's like full time, I wasn't. I didn't really go into competitions like having a game plan or I just used to just train, do like my competition training with people, and then just go to the competition, and all I'd be thinking about is getting the submission, because like I'd rather win a competition by submitting the person rather than winning it by points, because I'd like from day one I've just been like I just need to want to hunt for the submission. It was not up until I moved here, like down here, that obviously very more organized competition sessions, the guys with the experience at the gym, the competitions, obviously Kev being like qualified referee as well. Obviously in the competition training it was like, right, now you need to think about your competition plan. You need to remind yourself that if this guy gets a sweep within the first 10 seconds, you're already 2 points down. So you need to make up that 2 points, or you need to get a pass. You need to be ahead of the game. So like now I will, obviously pre-COVID, like I'll think about, right, even just in like a normal class, I'll be like, right, I'm 5 points up here, or I'm up here, I'm ahead, so I can slow down the pace. Right, I'm down points. I need to get those points back. So like now, I think when I'm training, obviously pre-COVID, like training, I'm like a lot smarter with like thinking about competition based, because that's what I'm working towards. So I need to think about these things. Obviously, the build up to competing, I know if this guy comes up or if he touches my leg while I pull guard, the ref might give him the 2 points, and I'm like, I'm 2 points down and I've only pulled guard. So you need to, if you wanted to compete seriously, you need to think about these things. And my mindset's like obviously changed since I've been down here, because some of the guys at our gym who compete, like they're amazing. And like Dan Lewis is like my main training partner. He's my best friend. I love the guy to pieces, and he will drive me to do better every time we train, all the time. And we do a little thing where if the other guy scores a points, then we'll literally go like, yeah, 2 points, or yeah, there's 3, there's 4, just to let the other guy know that you're down on points and you need to work to get those points back, or you need to do something now to submit me to win this round. Because we just like feed off each other for competitions and stuff, because obviously we both compete, we both want to do the best that we can. So definitely moving down here has changed my approach to competitions, like smarter thinking for competition training, and I'm more prepared now, like going for competitions. And like I said before, it's like the best decision I've ever made was moving down here for my jiu-jitsu, and obviously, like I said before, it's purely why I moved down here.
Just to say, there's a lot in that I find really interesting. I like how you're aware of the points in like just normal sort of flow sparring or whatever else. So you're aware that, okay, because this is something I never really noticed when I started training at BST, was more the how did your rounds go? Did you win your rounds? I never really thought about winning rounds as such. I think you just spar. But it makes so much more sense that, okay, so in this role we had pretty back and forth, but was it back and forth? Did you get 2 points? Did you get the guard pass? Was it an advantage? As much as you're rolling the same kind of way, because you get people at the other end of the spectrum are so far on the rule set, their game depends on the competition. They can't get working in that sub only. They have to do very points oriented, that kind of stuff. So it's interesting to get the sort of sweet spot with being sub focused, That's a band. So that's one here. I know sub-orientated. I don't think it's a band. We'll find out. But also having the points in the back of your head, understanding that, and also with Dan as well. That's very tall, very leggy, high-level opponents as well. It's very interesting having that kind of similar sort of, almost like a mirror as such. That kind of, okay, this is what I'd come up against. Because I remember sparring a little while ago, this guy taller than me, and I'm like 6'2", 6'3", and I'm thinking, okay, how's someone taller than me? This is weird. Like, it's this weird thing in itself. Like, stylistically, do you have a varying game kind of thing as such, or do you have your same game that kind of adapts to different styles?
Well, I'm like 6'4", and the majority of guys that I come up against in competition, like in the past, are either, because I'm like quite lean for my size. I normally get like the short, stocky guys, and like those guys are like so powerful. I remember going against this when I was a purple belt in. It was one of the London IBJJF competitions, and it was a guy who trains with the Mendes brothers, and he was like probably like 5'3", but 90 odd kilos, and I was like, it's like a boulder. It was like an Atlas stone. I'm just like, this guy is going to be so powerful. And like normally, it's either the very short, stocky guys or like the, I don't know, like 5'7", 5'8" guys who are like just in like normal build, but obviously still a similar weight. But like my go-to game has always been the guard, because obviously I look at like Roger and stuff like that. He was very much guard orientated, but then he'd get to the mount and just either armbar or choke the guy. And like for like my first couple of years of training, it was just get to the guard or get to half guard, go to lockdown, try and get an electric chair. I wasn't even thinking about sweeps or anything like that. But like as soon as I started training in the gi, I was very much pull guard, get to guard, try and get a triangle. And that was pretty much my entire game for like my first few years, was just, I just want to triangle you. That's literally all I want to do. But like the past, was it 3 years I've been down here now. I've like obviously tried everything, and more so now I'm either, it depends on like the guy. If they want to pull guard, then I know that right, I can try and pass and always try and get to the mount, because competition wise, as soon as you get into the mount or the back mount, you don't have to move. You can literally stay there the entire time if you really wanted to. You can really put like a lot of pressure on the guy to move. He's the ones that's got to make the effort. You've just got to either lay in the mount and try and attack, or you're on the back and just hold on for dear life if you want. But like I said, I want to try and finish the fight. I want to finish the fight via submission. So like now, the past couple of years, it was ever since I went down to Rogers one day with Kev. I think I was a blue belt, and it was like, I think we did the old man's club, I used to call it. It was like Mauricio, Roger, a couple of Mauricio's black belts. One of them was actually Darren Bartlett, who directed a Tradition, the film about Roger. So I was like, got to train with him and Steve Finnan as well. And I just asked Kev, like, me, Roger, Mauricio, and a few others was going for some food, and I just asked Kev, like, off the bat, like, is there anything you've noticed that I could improve on? And he like looked at me, and he's like, how tall are you? I was like, 6'4". I looked at Roger, similar sort of height. He's like, how much do you weigh? I was like, about 91. He's like, yeah, Roger's a little bit heavier. He's like, what does he do? I was like, fundamentals. So it's just pure fundamental stuff. And he's like, if you concentrate on the fundamentals, you'll see your progression go a lot higher. And that's literally, since he told me that, that's all I've been doing. If I get to guard, I want to sweep, get to mount, high mount, armbar, cross choke, whatever. So like now, because I'm like purely obviously more competition oriented, that's what I think about. Right, for me my A game is the guard. So if I can finish the guy from the guard, then perfect. There's a risk of me getting past, but if I get to guard, I'm not getting taken down. So there's like 2 points that I'm not going to lose. I might get past and get to mount, but I can try and recover. So like now, all I think about is guard, sweep to mount. I can because I might get to the mount in like 4 minutes, so I might be really tired by then. So at least I've got like 3 or 4 minutes now to chill out in the mount. I can make the guy make a mistake. So I'm all about the position, then submission. Because I remember here it's just sub the guy, but now it is. I'm really not wary, but I'm more aware of like the points and everything in jiu-jitsu. So I want to get to the guard. If I can finish the guy from the guard, then that's perfect. If not, I'll try and get the sweep to mount and then go from there as well.
So, regards of like obviously the fundamental focus, but also trying to keep on developing and adapting things. Like, how do you do what you do and still be able to develop and sort of change sort of areas? So, for example, like similar to yourself, my game for a long time was pull guard, triangle, and maybe a sweep if I'm lucky, and then finish a triangle from there. But again, it gets pretty stagnant, pretty same sort of setups. How do you develop your game in that sense? Is it different concepts, more sort of angle changing? Is it more techniques to set things up? Like, how are you still developing the same kind of game? What's changing that such?
So when obviously we rolled with people in the past, and obviously training with like the likes of Kevin Mauricio and Roger and Dan, like a few, like they've all told me like you need to connect techniques together, not just consistently go for that one technique. So about 2 years ago when I rolled with Roger, he absolutely battered me from the mount, by the way. It was like the worst 5 minutes of my life. And he always managed to get to the mount from wherever, whether it was passing the guard, whether it was sweeping to the mount. So I was like, right, I really want to try and concentrate on the mount, get into mount whichever way I can. If the guy pulls guard, right, okay, I need to pass. So I started like obviously looking at other people in the gym. What are people doing? What's Kev doing? What's Dan's doing? Especially what Dan was doing, because obviously like we're a similar build. So if something's working for Dan, maybe I can work it for me. So Dan was at one point was very guard passing orientated. I know that. So I was looking at what sort of passes he was doing. Then I looked at Kev as well. And one of the things that was really working, that does work well, is the famous Mermaid Pass that Kev does. And there's actually a picture of him doing it on, I think it was like the Jiu-Jitsu type, was it Jiu-Jitsu magazine? Jiu-Jitsu Lifestyle magazine. There's a picture of Kev doing it at the Euros a couple of years ago. So I started looking at my top game a lot more. Like, right, I really need to get good at guard passing, because at some point I'm going to have to pass someone's guard. So I just took it upon myself just to look at other people in the gym and just like, right, I can't just focus on one area. I need to obviously adapt to everything. I can't just be playing guard all the time, because I'm not always going to look at guard. I'm going to end up in the guard. So I just took it upon myself to like obviously study a little bit more via YouTube and like all the various online platforms that there is now that people are doing. Like, Jesus, how many guys have got jiu-jitsu instructionals online now? So I was like, right, I'll start studying those, all the free techniques you get on Instagram. So like, I just started like obviously studying a little bit more, just taking 30 minutes out of the day just to look at different techniques. I'm like, right, I'll try that. If it works for me, it works. If it doesn't, then I'll just see what else there is. So you've just got, if you want to progress, you've got to obviously look at what other people are doing. You can't just stick to your complete A game the entire time, because you're not always going to get there. And it's the same with obviously like normal like MMA fighters and stuff like that. They can't just think, oh, I'm going to do this combination, because they might get punched in the face straight away, and then they've got to do something else. So it's just, I've just started taking the time to study a lot more rather than just doing what I already know.
That itself is so important. And again, I like how you said sort of you have to pass someone's guard at some point, because this was a huge thing I sort of had in my own experience. And sort of, okay, I play guard not because I like guard, it's because I can't do takedowns. I haven't got a top game. So it's not exactly a virtue for me playing guard, it's a vice because I can't do takedowns. So going head on into that, focus on that side of things. Now it's an option. Now pulling guard is a choice. It's not, the only thing I can do. But this is kind of the point though, be able to expand that horizon, and now it's getting us layers to your attack and layers to other things. And again, this is why I think, I don't know, you're taking these extra steps to develop certain areas. And as much as you want to prioritize the things you're doing, it's also understanding how the game's developing in itself. Like you're saying with obviously like leg locks and this, that, and the other, and all the instructionals. Like you may not play those sort of games, but you know, you need to know what's going on. Okay, why is my leg going this way? What's that popping noise? Like what's going
Yeah,
on here?
you can't, like, obviously jiu-jitsu's developing all the time, so you've got to not obviously keep up with every day what's going on, but you've got to have an element for every position there is in jiu-jitsu, because at one point you're going to end up there 100%. You're going to end up in single leg X, you're going to end up in X guard, you're going to end up in De La Riva and stuff like that. You've got to know, even if you just know one or two techniques to defend it or attack from that position or get a sweep, you need to know that position, because you're going to end up there one day without a shadow of a doubt. So that's what I just started doing, just studying a lot more, because obviously, like before I moved down here, I was just right, I'll get to guard, go to like rubber guard, and then, or if someone almost passes my guard, I can just go to the lockdown and maybe get an electric sweep. But then back then I didn't really have much of a top game. But then ever since Roger smashed me in mount, I was like, right, I need to really concentrate on mount now, because that guy's unreal.
I mean, this is kind of it. It's like, okay, you think you know jiu-jitsu and someone who knows jiu-jitsu, and to that
Uh,
extent, I mean, most of the people say that when it's like, okay, their instructor who's, you know, had 6, 7 years of jiu-jitsu or sat and the other. No, you've got literally the greatest competitor of all time. Smashing you
yeah,
from that thing, you know what?
uh,
It's a
yeah,
bit of a fucking ceiling, isn't it?
it's unreal. It's just unreal. Like, it was the first time I rolled with Roger. Oh man, I've never wanted to tap from anyone just being in mount before, but then like I was like, this is horrific. And he does this amazing thing where he crushes your face with his chest, and he just managed to get it perfect on your nose and almost breaks your nose, and you just got to turn your head one way so you don't end up with a broken nose. But yeah, that guy's just unreal. And like having the opportunity to train with him and Mauricio and some of the guys that I have trained with, it's like mainly because of Kev, just knowing Kev, like going to the old man's club on like a Wednesday morning, just going to London for an hour training, um, asking any questions you want, because it was literally like me, Kev, Mauricio, some of Mauricio's black belts, and then Roger and a couple of his guys. And I'm just like, I can't actually believe this is happening. I'm like training with these guys that are legends, and I'm just a lad from Grimsby that didn't know jiu-jitsu like 5 years ago. So what's going on?
But again, you take these risks, you make the move in the first place. I mean, you're asking these
uh,
questions. That's half the battle in itself. Like people are getting stuck in full stop. I mean, the interesting thing in that in itself, like regard to your progression in itself, has it been fairly proactive? Has it been something you found quite naturally to keep on progressing? Is there anything you've done to really help that sort of thing? Like, do you journal at all? Do you ask Kev or Dan for direct feedback on things?
um, so when I first started training at Kev's full time RGA Books, obviously I was only because I knew Kev before I knew Dan, and then when I first moved down here, I was just like only just joining in with like the regular classes. But I think I was when I first moved down here, I was training to go compete in Tokyo, and I told Kev and Dan, "Oh, I'm competing in Tokyo in 3 months. Can you obviously help me? Because I'm not going all that way to do shit. Basically, I need you
Hmm.
to help me go along." And luckily, work. Like when the first day I met my sergeant, he was like, "Oh, have you got any like trips coming up? So we can put them in a plan." I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to Tokyo in September." He's like, "Right, if you want to go, whenever you want to go train, go train." So I was like training like twice a day. So I was like going to a lunchtime class and then going to the evening as well. And then after like a couple of weeks, I really asked Dan and Kev to really concentrate on what I was doing good and what I was doing badly as well. So I was asking for feedback off them, like, what do I need to do here? Dan told me, he's like, look, you need to get to guard straight away and go from there, because he knew that because of like the 10th fight stuff, like my closed guard was half decent. Attacks from there, not necessarily getting to the top, but just attacking from the guards. He's like, right, you need to get to guard, so we'll work on getting to close guard, learning how to pull guard a lot better in the gi as well. So like Dan and Kev really helped me with obviously training for Tokyo, and I just if you don't ask, it's just the old saying, if you don't ask, you don't get.
Mhm.
So it's all good and well, obviously Dan and Kev coming up to you and say, look, you need to do this, that, and that. But obviously I'm not the only person in the gym. They've got, like, I don't know, I think when I first went down there was probably like 30 to 40 people on a mat on a night. That's a lot of people for, like, obviously one mat. So they can't just concentrate on one person. So you've got to ask, otherwise you don't get. So, but yeah, definitely, if you think you could improve on something, or someone, even if it's someone the same belt as you, or it's like someone a belt below you, it doesn't matter. Just ask them, like, oh, did you notice anything that I did wrong, or how did you do this, how did you do that? So if you don't ask, you're not getting. If you don't get any if you want feedback, you're not gonna get it unless you ask. But yeah, Kevin Dan was perfect for that, and that build up to Tokyo as well. That's when I first started going down to Rogers for like the Wednesday Old Man's Club, and the guys there helped me as well. So like, I think I was like training with like 2 Mauricio's black belts, and like these guys are unreal. And like, I'm getting absolutely smashed here, but it's for a good reason, and it's helping me a lot. So, but yeah, I definitely started asking more questions when I moved down here.
So there's so much in there. I don't know where to begin. Let's sort of think. Okay, so, I mean, Tokyo off the bat. I mean, is there anything like IBJJF out there? Is that what that was? Was it just what was it? What comp was it?
Yeah, so like the RAF team, one of the guys off the RAF team, um, he just put a message out on Facebook one day, like, so we're organising a trip to Tokyo to compete at the IBJJF Asian Open in September. I think this is 2017. Who wants to go? He was like, it's £250 personal cost. The rest of it's going to be funded by like the Sports Federation of the RAF. And I was like, I want to go to Tokyo for £250. I'll compete in Tokyo, definitely. And that's all it was. It was just a guy that he just asked for funding for 8 of us to go to Tokyo. It cost us £250 for 10 days. And yeah, eight guys traveling to Tokyo. It was amazing. It was unreal.
So obviously, what happens on tour stays on tour a little bit, but regards to the actual like experience in itself. So talk me through that Tokyo trip in itself. So again, you've got your competition anxieties, your nerves, everything else, your preparation. Obviously, you got your confidence from that. When in that 10 days is the competition? Is it day 1? Is it day 10? Like, what's the length of time? So obviously, trying to enjoy the rest of the trip in itself.
So I think it was. So we left on day 10, and I was competing on. No, we was leaving. So we got there on like the Friday or the Saturday morning, and we was leaving like a week the following Monday. So we had like 10 full days there. I was competing on the Saturday, I believe. Yeah, the Saturday, because the competition was over the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We had guys competing on each day. So like, we didn't like go drinking. We didn't do anything like that. It was literally, we got there, we chilled out for a couple of hours, went and explored where we were staying. And then the next day we was training at, it was a place called Axis Jiu Jitsu. It was a guy that Mauricio, I know Mauricio had trained there as well. So like, we'd emailed ahead and said, oh, look, there's 8 of us coming down to compete. Do you mind if we train at your gym for these days? And it was like, yeah, no worries. And it was amazing. Like, the guys made us feel really welcome there. It was a huge gym. So it was like a 40-minute train drive to where we was going. And like, the guys are super friendly there. Obviously there wasn't, like, the instructor could speak good English, but like everyone else like couldn't really speak much English. But it was still like a great experience to go over there and train with the guys. But then when we got there on the Friday for the first lot of guys to compete, like, we walked into the stadium, and it was at the Tokyo Budokan. It was where last year's Olympics judo was supposed to be held. And we walked in, and the atmosphere was unreal. Like, it was like the best venue I'd seen at a competition, because there was no, as you walked in, you could only get so far to the mats, and there was no spectators around the mats. All the spectators was like on tiered seating above the mats. and it was just this huge venue. And I walked in, I was like, I can't wait to compete here. And then like you're walking around, and it was like the Mendes brothers were there. I knew Keenan Cornelius was fighting as well. And I know Keenan was fighting on the day that I was competing as well. So I was looking forward to obviously seeing him compete in the flesh as well. And it was good to obviously see like my guys compete. And then when we've seen watching our guys compete, and I was buzzing. It was like the most excited I'd been for a competition to compete ever. I was like all the way back. I was like, I can't wait for tomorrow. It was the most excited. I wasn't nervous. I was just excited to compete. And then the day come, and I was watching Keenan, because where the warm-up area was, Keenan Cornelius was fighting his bracket like on mat 1, and mat 1 was right next to the warm-up area. So I was warming up as I was watching Keenan fight, and I was like, oh, can't wait, just get me on the mat, get me on the mat, come on. And I was waiting for an hour and a half because my first guy didn't show up. So I was so pissed off. I was like, come on, you need to get here. And then the guy come over, he's like, oh, you're going to be on next. So, but yeah, the competition was amazing. Seeing all those guys compete, seeing like some of the highest level guys in the world compete, and I was just so excited to compete. And then I went on to win the competition as well. So it was like my first IBJJF gold as well. And yeah, it was the best. I think it's the best competition experience I've had. It was unreal.
So good. That sounds fucking amazing. I mean,
Yeah, it was.
The fairy tale ending of getting the gold as well is even better as well. Again, what I loved about that, the way you said excitement, not nerves, and that is so poignant, because again, it's very much could be any way you sort of dress it up. But again, that level of preparation must have given you that confidence to be able to enjoy it as well.
Yeah, I know, because we're in the house that we were staying at. We stayed in like an Airbnb, and like me and one of my friends stayed in like the tatami mats downstairs. So like we slept down there, and then every morning, like 7 o'clock on the dot, you'd hear the guys come down the stairs, and we had a set of scales at the bottom of the stairs that guys could weigh themselves on, and like all the guys was like weighing themselves, and I just like poked my head out the quilt like because I didn't have to worry about my weight the entire week. I was like eating like steak and chicken, just eating what I want, and they was all like just like eating fish and rice like the entire week, and like really watching the weight, and I was just like just proper chilling like, oh, I don't give a shit. I'm on weight. I don't care. And then my excitement got even more when I walked into the stadium, and it was unreal. And like having a guy shouting your name and everything like down from the tiered seating. I actually got my favorite, because at that point my favorite submission was the hip bump to triangle setup.
Oh yeah.
And like in my final fight, that's what I got. And you hear on the video, like one of our mates, Gav Davis, is a Welsh dude, and he's like, he's a fucker with that, ain't he? He's a fucker with it. And I was like, oh mate, it was brilliant. Yeah, I think all in all, that is my favourite competition, because obviously the trip, the guys that I was with, and just that excitement of obviously competing in a place like that. And that's why I was looking forward so much to watching the judo at the Olympics last year, but obviously got cancelled. Cheers, Corona. Cheers.
I mean, the fairy tale ending gets even more fairy tale with the submission. Everything else, all the stars was the line. But again, it's that same conversation that you made the stars line prior to this, that you didn't win that competition on the day, you won that competition in the training leading up to it and everything else put into it. But regardless of like after that then, because again, that doesn't really compare to like, I don't know, the Hereford Open is a bit different. So where do you go from there at that point? Is it only IBJJF for a little bit after that? Is it just whatever's next? Like, how do you even compare the sort of scale of competition in that kind of moment?
Well, like that. Up to the Tokyo trip, I think I did a few competitions like in between as well. But when I got back, like I think the English Open was like a couple of weeks afterwards as well. So I literally had like a couple of days off, because we got back on like the Tuesday or the Wednesday, and like my sergeant was like, I said to him, "Oh, do you mind if I have like an extra day off? Because I'm like jet lagged to shit." And he was like, "Mate, just take the rest of the week off. It's fine. I'll see you on Monday." So I took like the rest of the week off, and then I think like the English Open was like a couple of weeks later, and I was like, "Well, I've got to get training again," because I'd already signed up to it. So I was just straight back into it, just training twice a day, doing a competition session on a Sunday, and then like the week leading up to it, I was just doing one session a day, with like minimal sparring, but obviously just enough to keep me on edge. But yeah, I was just straight back into it. I normally only if I do a competition, I'll only normal have like a couple of days off, then go straight back into it as well. Because I just want to. I'm just that excited to get back to training because that's all I love. I just love training.
What
It's just
belt
good
did
to.
you get? Sorry, did you do Asian Open? Was that purple?
No, that was at blue belt. That Tokyo one.
Mm. So say like the thing with the blue belt comps when people start jumping shit, okay, that's when people get a bit risky. But guess say if you're
Yeah.
playing guard, you're sort of the one jumping shit, so it's fine. Your liabilities. Like remember as a stage, like I think when jumping close guard was illegal at white belt, and started jumping half guard and just kept blowing each other's
Oh,
knees out, flying
oh,
white
it's
belts.
horrific. That is horrific. I'll only jump guard if I know the guy can hold my weight because like no one wants to receive 90 odd kilos like jumping on him. Sod that. Nah.
Ugh.
Hell no.
I mean, anyone who was stalking your Instagram prior to the comp thinking, okay, so this guy just won IBGF Asia and he's coming to the English one, right? Cheers. I don't know, I think I'm a bit run down. I might not be able to make the weight. Oh, move up a bracket, move down one. Where's the fish and rice at? But regards of like the urgency in competition and training the way you do anyway, have your, how do I explain it? So when you're competing anyway, you're very regimented around your game and how you play. But regards to learning and development and trying new things anyway, does that come part and parcel with competition training? Is that just something you do anyway, or is it something you isolate for after a competition when you're out of camp, so to speak?
So I think obviously like no matter if you win or lose a competition, there's always something obviously you can do better or right, I noticed that this kept happening. Um, I noticed so I think one of the big things that I noticed after the English Open was Dan kept shouting to me, get rid of the hand grip for the guy. Obviously, if someone's controlling your legs, then you obviously need to get rid of that pant grip because they're going to try and obviously isolate your legs so you can't play any guard. They're going to try and pass. So like, that's one of the points that I remember. Like Dan shouting at me from the side, like, get rid of that pants grip. So like now, um, I'm very regimented with like collar grips and any grips that someone gets on me. So if someone gets a grip on me, I want to strip that grip straight away, whether it be a pant grip or a collar grip or a sleeve grip as well. So it's just the little details of what you need to do just to give you that split second to get to a position or hit a submission. So if you're going to take obviously competition seriously, then you obviously need to pick up these little things and you need to admit to yourself that you do make mistakes. You do need to drill these things. You need to you need to study more because obviously not everyone's perfect and you're not going to develop your game if you don't study or ask questions or anything. So definitely leading up to like the Tokyo one and stuff, I definitely like asked more questions like we obviously discussed earlier. But like I started noticing obviously the more you train and the more you develop, the more things you notice yourself as well. So I started noticing things that right, I need to do this better. I can't let someone get this grip. I need to get rid of this grip. I can't let someone put the hand here. I need to address it straight away. You can't just leave it because it might be the difference between you winning or losing, or even just a difference of being put on the back foot of being like down in points. So I definitely started taking like competitions more seriously up towards like Tokyo and the English Open after that, because I started to realize that right, competition is going to be a big part of my jiu-jitsu because not everyone obviously does competitions or does a lot of competitions if they're training. But for me, like I said earlier, I want to try and do the best that I can. So I'm going to put everything that I can into to studying and my jiu-jitsu training because I just want to do the best that I can. I might not necessarily do the best on the day in a competition because I don't know, you might have a bit of fatigue or you might be tired, you might not be able to sleep the night before, depends on how you're feeling, but I'll do whatever I can to give me the best chance of doing the best that I can perform on the day. And if that means asking questions, it might obviously everyone says there's no such thing as a stupid question, which there isn't, but you're not going to get anywhere or you're not going to know anything unless you ask or start studying online or just asking your coach, like, what do you do here? Because what they might do might help you massively or open something up. And yeah. if I could give any advice to anyone, it's just ask questions, do a bit of studying, and you'll see your progression like go up massively.
This is where things get even more interesting in the sense of obviously the layers of your game expanding. And obviously, the more you do, the more there is to do wrong and such. And then being able to be vulnerable. Obviously, when you start taking on more of a coaching role as well, it then becomes a bit of a I've got to be almost set an example as such. Sort of I've got to give this not a facade, but more of a persona that I'm not all knowing, but I'm confident I'm the one who tells you what I know. But to
Yeah,
then be open and be vulnerable, saying, you know what, I don't know these things. It's a very interesting, very I don't know, honest way to go about things. Like, how have you always found like taking that sort of step to be vulnerable to sort of say, do you know what, this isn't something I'm overly familiar with, but let's try and work it out.
yeah. Like I've had guys in the past, like the RAF team training and stuff. Or what would you do here? Or what do I do in this position? If I don't know what it is, I'm not going to obviously tell them, oh well, I I do this, and then if they're doing it, it doesn't work. Obviously, not every technique works for everyone,
Mm.
but if someone asks me a question and I don't know the answer, I'm not going to feed them bullshit. I'll just literally tell them, or I'll get back to you, or um, put me in this position. I'll figure out what I would do. Just have a little, just
Mm.
soak it up for a minute or two, and just be like, right, for me, I would do X, Y, Z. But if I don't know the answer, I'm not going to give anyone like shit advice. Basically, I don't, because I'd rather give someone. I just want to be honest with someone, or well, I would want to be honest with someone rather than feeding them a technique or something I would do that I've never done or has never worked for me. Because
I mean,
I don't really show techniques when I'm teaching that I haven't used before or doesn't work for me. Because obviously I don't know the ins and outs of that technique.
now that starts another question in itself. Like, how well do you feel you have to know a technique before you can teach it? Is it something you have to have done in competitions? Is it something you just have to be relatively familiar with? Is it something you've signed up on KeenanOnline.com or something like this? Or what's your general like rule of thumb for? Okay, I want to show this to my guys.
Yeah, if you're obviously hitting something in sparring or you've done it in a competition, obviously you can break it down. Like that's why I always film like my competition so I can like, obviously like review videos and stuff afterwards. Like I'll even ask Dan to have a look and see what he thinks as well, see what I could have done differently and better, just to obviously break it down, and then you can obviously work out where you're going wrong or what you're doing right, so you can be like, right, I need to carry on doing this technique, or this, I need to keep doing this technique to, because that's working for me. So I'll always, everything that I show in a class, it's either something that I've been working on for like a couple of months, or something that I've done in a competition, or something that's working for me in sparring. I'll never just like look at a technique online and be like, right, yeah, I know what that means. Drill it once, and they'll be like, oh, okay, guys, this is what we're going to do today. I don't want to be that kind of like instructor, because it's I don't want to be like bullshit. I don't want to be bullshitting to people, because
Bushido.
yeah, you'll just get called out straight away, or someone will do it and be like, this doesn't even work. This doesn't even work, or that's not the way you actually do it. I'd rather know a technique pretty well to show someone rather than not know it all and just seen it once and then show someone, because I don't want to be that type of person. I'd rather be a good instructor at like a few techniques rather than a good instructor at bullshit techniques, to be honest.
So it's
I
not
don't
even
want
that
to.
really, isn't it? It's understanding it to that further extent that even if it's not the intricacies of that specific technique, it's more, okay, say your triangles, for example. Say if you say it not so much verbatim to Roger Gracie would say it, but you've got your certain way of, okay, this is how you do it this way. Obviously, you've got a different build to me, so you do it this way or something else. You wouldn't
Yeah,
have to be word for word, this is what I saw on YouTube, but
no,
this is something, I
yeah,
understand to my own, I don't know, I can articulate my own words to sort of get an extra layer of authenticity, I feel.
yeah. It'll just so like triangle's perfect example. Like triangle's probably my all-time favorite submission, because of the length of my legs. It's like quite easy for me to shoot the triangle and get like the angle straight away. Um, and I'll like, if I'm showing the triangle, I'll be like, right, this is the way that I do it. You can go like, oh, you can go to the angle straight away depending on your leg length. Like for me, uh, I don't always want to get the arm across, so I'm like, right, you don't. For me, I don't need to get the arm across to finish the triangle. But obviously, depending on the person's body type, like depending on how long the legs are, you might have to obviously get the angle perfect for the triangle. I'll just say to them like, this works for me, but try and figure it out. Give people the room to maneuver of how to figure out that it works for them as well. I wouldn't like say this is how we're doing it. You need to do it this way, because not every technique works for people's body types. So give people, especially like the newer guys as well. Obviously, you'd help obviously the newer guys, like this is like the basic setup, or this is the basic fundamental way of doing the triangle, or whatever it is. But obviously, as time goes on, you'll figure out yourself, like, right, I need to get my hips this way, or I need to get my legs at this angle for it to work for me. But it obviously all depends on the person who you're doing it to's body type as well. Because if a guy's got massive shoulders, you might not be able to get your legs that perfect angle, because it might tap a bit before you do get that angle, because the shoulders are so big. So it just depends, like, obviously on the person's body type that you're dealing with, and what your body type is as well.
And doing that in itself is obviously understanding, like, okay, just maybe not get it straight away, but again, the amount of hours you're putting into trying that technique and against different body types, you then start finding your own bearings and such. I want to say your own sort of, well, not boundaries as such, but gauging where your sort of space might be, certain reactions you might get, that sort of stuff. And now, regardless of the way you teach, obviously, when Kev was saying you should try and, I'd say, emulate Roger's sort of style, as said, principles he works off of this game he plays. Do you do the same with your guys? You're saying, okay, you've got this sort of build, maybe watch, I don't know, Rafael Mendes maybe. Just saying that for some white belt doing Baron Bolos, that's not the best idea. But you know what I mean? That's sort of like, stylistic kind of ideas to sort of study as such.
I don't think I've ever. I might have told like a few people like, oh, you should check out this person because obviously similar build. But like for me, I know Kev has said it. I know Kev said it on your when you did a podcast with him, that he likes to shut people's game down straight away so they can't do much. But obviously that's very Mauricio and Roger's sort of style as well. And that's how I am now. If I'm passing someone's guard, then I will get the shoulder flat so they can't come up to get an underhook. I'll try and stop them getting a leg in, just to really, like, I call it like steamroller jiu-jitsu. You want to be that slow, but you can feel that heavy. I mean, Kev's, I think Kev's like maybe just over like 70 kilos or whatever he is. But if he's, oh man, if he gets like his passing game on you, it don't matter like how heavy you are. As soon as he gets that shoulder locked down and his head in the way, you're done. And like Kev's like, I've got like 25 kilos now on Kev, and like it is a lot. But obviously he's been training with like Roger and Mauricio for like the past like 15 years or whatever it is. So obviously he's going to mimic their game because that's who his instructors are. So like my game is like, people say to me that, oh, like Dan calls it like mean jiu-jitsu. But everyone, like, people say to me, oh, it's mean, you're getting mean with your jiu-jitsu, but sometimes that's all you've got to do, because I just go to people, blame him, blame Dan, because he's been beating me up for 3 years. So now he's created the monster. So just blame that guy right there. But
yeah, again, mean jiu-jitsu is a bit of a, not a paradox, such as a bit like, it's a fighting art, it's a combat sport. It is, you're choking and strangling people. Tell me which bit is nice about it. Yes, guy didn't invert to do it, but you get smashed, you get strangled.
No one's got anywhere in jiu-jitsu by being nice.
Exactly.
Only off the mat can you be nice in jiu-jitsu. You got to be mean, otherwise you're not going to get anywhere, I'm afraid. That's the way it is.
We'll change that word to assertive, I think. You do things with conviction. I think that's the word. We always sort of say that everyone's going to be nice and still play jiu-jitsu. Don't worry.
Just make someone uncomfortable, then they'll move, or then they'll let you pass or anything. So if you make them uncomfortable, that's when people panic.
General social rules of the rule.
Yeah, uncomfortable jiu-jitsu, that's what we'll call it.
I mean, that becomes another conversation in itself, but there we are. Speaking of uncomfortable jiu-jitsu, let's go to the old cliche question. So regardless of, we were sort of touching it briefly, but restarting jiu-jitsu off the bat, so again, obviously being in the armed services, which came first?
So I started jiu-jitsu about 7 months before I joined the RAF. And because I remember literally I started jiu-jitsu literally by chance. So I used to go to a gym that was literally like 2 doors down the way from a pub. And I went to the gym and I had like a pair of, I can't remember if it was a pair of boxing gloves or a pair of MMA gloves, like with me to tote to the gym just to do like a few rounds on the bag, just to warm up. And I was walking past that pub and I see one of my dad's friend in the window. So I went in to say hello, put my gloves down on the side, having a game of pool with my dad's friend. And this guy just came over and was like, "Oh, whose gloves are these?" And I was like, "Oh, they're mine." He's like, "Oh, do you train like MMA?" There must have been MMA gloves because he asked me if I trained MMA or jiu-jitsu. And I was like, "Oh, no, but like everyone that started watching UFC, then they started training like jiu-jitsu and mixed martial arts." I was like, "Oh no, but I've always wanted to give jiu-jitsu or like stand up a go." And he said, "Oh, there's a gym on the Nunsthorpe estate. It's like probably the roughest estate in Grimsby." I was like, "Great, I'll check it out." And he said, "Oh, there's a." He gave me the timetable and like the Facebook page. So I had a look, and like it was like a 10th Planet advanced class on a Thursday night, and walked in, and I was like, "Yeah, don't know what's going on here." And I think after about a week, I found out that the 10th Planet Grimsby was like the first 10th Planet instructor in the UK as well. He's a guy called Simon Cox, and he was like a similar build to me at that point. He was very skinny and he was like 6'4" as well. So his rubber guard was like amazing. I think he was like a blue belt 10th Planet at the time. So I started training. I think I did like 7 months training before I got back into before I got into the RAF, because I was like working as a roofer at a time and the money wasn't great. And I was like, I always wanted to go in the forces anyway. So I put my application in, and then within 7 months, I was like, I started training. I started training my basic training in the November that year, because I started training in the like 2012 in the April, and then I started my basic training for the RAF in the November of 2012. So I only started training for like 6 or 7 months, then went straight into basics for 7 months, and then didn't really train like that 7 months as well. And then started training again once I got out of basics. But then as soon as I got to my first squadron in the RAF, there was like, on my graduation day, there was like, "Oh, here's your itinerary for the year. You go in adventure training in this month, and then when you get back from that, you start your PDT because you're going to Afghan in April." I was like, "Oh, great." And this was on like my graduation day as well. And I'll always remember the station commander, like on the graduation day, like I had my whole family there, I had a couple of friends there, my next door neighbours. I had like my dad brung out like a minibus full of people down to my graduation day. And the station commander went round like each family, like speaking to us, like saying congratulations, well done. And he was like, "Oh, what squadron are you going to?" I was like, "I'm going 34." And he was like, "Oh, and of course you're going to a 34 squadron, you're going to Afghan in April." And he was like, I like looked at my mum and dad, I was like, "Cheers, sir, I've not even fucking told them yet I'm going." He was like, "Oh, I do apologise." I was like, "Fuck's sake." And I was like, so yeah, some random dude who my mum and dad didn't know told them that I was going to Afghan in the April. So like it was like 7 months on training, 7 months off. I was like training a little bit during my PDT. Then it was like 7 months off again because I went to Afghan. And then when I got back from Afghan in like 2014, that's when I started training with the RAF team and Kev. Like I didn't meet Kev until 2014 in like December, when I started training with the RAF team. So that was like my first encounter with Kev. And I was like training between Gracie Academy in Grimsby, my 10th Planet coach, and the 10th Planet guys at Darlington as well. So it was like a real mixture of my jiu-jitsu, but it was just what was available because of my job and where I was. So I just had to make do with what I had. And then I think like 2016, I started actually getting graded under Kevin stuff, because he was like, "If you're training with me more than you are back home, then I don't mind if you start getting graded under me." So that I've been getting graded under Kev since like middle of 2015, I think it was. So it was like at the start, it was like very on and off. But then since 2015, it's just been like five years straight jiu-jitsu training. So very lucky in the sense with my job of what's available to me. in that sense.
Where do we even begin with this? There's so much in there. I mean,
I know.
I kind of want to touch on like the 10th planet system and like how you watch like Royce Gracie thinking, okay, I want MMA, but like it's sort of, that kind of, I don't know, old man style. But then you go to 10th planet, which is almost polar opposite of, guys
I
in
know.
fancy, headache inducing rash guards sitting on their ass trying to bend themselves up in like a pretzel, which ironically was designed from MMA, which I don't think I've known many MMA fighters who, anyway, use rubber guards, another thing in itself entirely. So
Oh yeah.
let's scratch the surface of that a little bit. So, regards of initial impressions, because again, you're expecting, old man jiu-jitsu to an extent, and you're getting polar opposite. What sort of encouraged you to come back? Was it sort of, okay, I'll give it a better go of it? Was it something you enjoyed off the bat? Like, how did you take in that initial, I don't know, experience?
Well, I remember when I first met Kev, and like there was like really basic stuff that obviously that I'd never seen before in the gi, because like I didn't put the gi on until December. I remember like the first time I got a gi was like December 2014. That was the first time I'd put a gi on in like what, like how long was it? Like 2.5 years of like training jiu-jitsu. I'd never put a gi on. And I remember Kev saying to me, like, we went for some food in the mess after like the morning training, and he's like, "Where do you train?" I was like, "Oh, I train at between a 10th Planet gym and a Gracie Academy back home." And he's like, "Yeah, because you've got like a proper old school Gracie gi, um, and you've got a 10th Planet hoodie." So he's like really confused as to where I trained. And then obviously you see me like doing like the lockdown to like electric chair and rubber guard in the gi, and he's like, "What the fuck is this guy doing?" Like, so but yeah, like it was great seeing the stuff that Kev was showing. But I was still very 10th Planet orientated until I started getting graded under Kev in like 2000, like the middle of 2015. I was like very 10th Planet orientated, because not a lot of people that because at that point uh, Grimsby was like pretty much the only uh, 10th Planet gym established in the UK. So not like people obviously heard of 10th Planet, but there wasn't. He was like the only official instructor in like the UK. So people seeing this like 10th Planet stuff was just like, it was a benefit to me in one sense that I could obviously do stuff to people that they'd obviously never seen before. But then people was doing stuff to me that I was like, what the hell is that? Where there was like passing my guard and stuff, and I'm like, I've not really seen all this like really basic jujitsu, because my obviously all my stuff was all no gi advanced 10th Planet stuff. So it was 50-50 in the sense that 10th Planet was helping me, but also it was a bit of I would like jumped in the deep end without knowing the basics first, obviously in the gi. So up until I put the gi on with Kev and obviously the Gracie guys, I was like, I didn't really have like much of a clue. So it did help me in one sense, but then was like a bit of a hindrance in the same sense as well.
I guess a lot of it is you don't know, we don't know. So again, you think this might be part of the whole, again, old man smashing past kind of, maybe Hoist Gracie is 10th planet as far as you're concerned. You think, okay, maybe this is what he does. Maybe this is as far as, that all sort of pans out. But regards of, okay, we'll jump around topics a little bit. So regards to getting there in the first place and all that sort of stuff, is it something you've always wanted to do? Is it something you've always had I don't know, preference to be in this sort of services?
Yeah, I'm one of them people that's like, I couldn't be like sat at a desk doing a job, because I think I mean, there's been some days in the RAF where I've like had to sit at a desk all day, and I've been absolutely bored shitless. I'd like to be active. I like to be, um, I don't know. I just like to be proactive within my job, and I like just experiencing obviously new things. And bloody hell, you experience like many things like being within the forces. And I actually applied when I was 17, but they didn't let me in at first because I had athlete's foot, and like the medical doctor like said no. And I wrote a letter of appeal. They told me no, and I was like gutted. My mum was loving life because she was like, "Oh, thank God for that," because it was like the height of like Afghan and stuff. And I was like, "Fuck, I want to go in the RAF," because of my both granddads had been. One had been in like the paras during World War II. The other one was like in the RAF during I think it's like the 60s and 70s. So the forces was like a great option for me as a person because of what I wanted to do with my life. I want to like travel the world. I want to experience new things. I don't want to be doing the same thing like 9 to 5 and not be in the same building or same office every day. I just couldn't do it. It's just not me at all. Obviously, at the minute, because I know what I'm doing, but I can obviously now I can plan my life like around jiu-jitsu and stuff. But it was perfect for me, like traveling the world. Like, bloody hell, within the first couple of months of being in the RAF, I was like doing adventure training in like Bavaria and stuff like that, skiing and doing all these like pre-deployment packages. Like it's like boys in the toys. Like I'm driving around the middle of the countryside in like these vehicles with like a weapon and like preparing myself to like go to Afghan and stuff. I'm like, I'm fucking loving life here. This is me. This is perfect. So I always wanted to like go into one service. I even thought about like the police at some point, but then I think I remember speaking to someone that was in the police, and I just remember him telling me like how much paperwork they've got to do, and I was like, nah, I can't be sitting there doing all this paperwork just for arresting someone. So I was like the RAF or one of the forces sounds perfect for me. So obviously started looking into it, and I was like, I'm just going to go for it. And then because obviously I got denied straight away, they said, oh, you got to wait 3 years. And then so I waited 3 years. I was like working as a roofer in the meantime, and then I was like, I want to try something different now. I'm going to go for the RAF again, and I got in, and like I was within 6 months I was starting my basics, so it was perfect, absolutely perfect job.
Now, as to say, that sort of career path and all that sort of stuff sounds very ideal. Obviously, the thick concepts of, okay, I don't want to be in an office. I want to do something that's hands-on, something that, again, family's quite invested in the services anyway. Obviously, you got like granddads and everything else. But when push comes to shoving, going to Afghan, obviously preparing for something versus doing it, the different things in themselves. Like, how did you treat that experience? Because again, competition is exciting and it's fun because if you lose, you're like, oh no, still get to have my takeaway afterwards. It's all good fun. But if you lose in Afghan, it's not quite the same. I don't get the novelty of a Nando's on the drive home.
Well, anyone who's obviously been to, who's in the forces or has been to Afghan or been to, I know obviously like a lot of my friends and like my next door neighbours, like he went to like Iraq and stuff like that. Obviously they know it's like a lot of different, and everyone knows someone who's in the armed forces or they've got a friend of a friend who's in the armed forces. Like it's, to be honest, like most of the experiences you have within the military, it's all about who you're with. No matter how shit of a situation, like during basics, if you can't fucking have a laugh with like the lads that you're with, you're done. Like, because at the end of basics, like we all like sort of looked at each other and was like, it wasn't actually that bad, because we all like was looking at each other and like, right, he's going through the same thing as I am, so it's not that bad, and he's doing all right. So I know that it's going to be fine. And like literally, we said to each other on like grad day, like that wasn't actually that bad, but it was like more funny than anything, because like you're getting fucking woke up at like 5 a.m. to go through. Because I thought about this earlier actually, like one of the best days, one of the funniest things that we did on basics was, I think it was like Hive and Lid Ranges, which is like the southeast coast, I think it is. And it was 5 a.m. It's like January. It's fucking thick snow, and you're getting woken up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go for a run, like a 6 mile run or whatever. And then we get back, and the corporal's like, right, we're going to do some like battle PT grappling in the fucking snow. And we're all just looking at each other like, this is going to be fucking horrendous, but it's going to be hilarious. Like, so if you're doing something shit on basics and then afterwards you're just laughing about it, it's just literally who you're doing it with. It's just like, and obviously the military and obviously jiu-jitsu are like a lot different in like going to Afghan and stuff, but it's just the same thing. Whoever you're doing it with, like on a squadron, you've got like 150 lads and you're all going through the same shit. You're all together and you've got like 150 lads like in Afghan together, and you're like, right, we've been together for like 7 months. Now we're going to be together for another 7 months. If we can't laugh about it, then we're fucked. It's going to be shit if we can't laugh about everything. So, but yeah, it just depends who you're with, and it's the same as jiu-jitsu. It depends who your teammates are as well.
I have this image in my head now of you battle PT and in the snow, get some like a vaporizer, like a lockdown sort of thing, like some electric chair. Thinking, what the fuck is this? It's not quite the same point of like hand-to-hand combat stuff.
I think because the guy who like took us for it, he'd seen I had like a 10th Planet book in my locker, and obviously an inspection, like they question you about what you've got in your locker and stuff, and he's like, "Oh, fucking jiu-jitsu, have you? Reckon you can fucking take me, can you?" And I was like, just sat there, I just stood there
Sat
like no
down. Can I get your ropes?
just stood there like no corporal, and he's like, "Fucking Jesus Christ, you get questioned about everything." And then the guy who took us for this battle PT, so he was doing the grappling, and then this guy just come up to us because I was showing the corporal like some technique, and like this lad just came over to us, and like obviously your hand, if you hold your hands like this, it's straight, but his fucking hand was like this, like not in a position that it should have been in. He was like, "Corporal, I think I've broke my wrist." And he was like, "Oh fuck." Because but luckily it wasn't broken, and he was like, if he'd have got found out, obviously what he'd done, he'd have been like in the shit. So, and like you just look at stuff like that, and you're just fucking laughing. And he actually that guy actually ended up back here. I ended up working with him because he used to train a little bit jiu-jitsu as well, and he came to the RAF sessions one day, and he used to make us run. He used to come in the classroom on basics. He'd have a brew, because he's not logged onto his computer yet, to give himself 5 minutes to like get his lesson set up. He just used to shout, "Mounds go." And there used to be these two massive mounds outside the building where we did our lessons, and we had to run downstairs, run over the mounds, and then run back up. And the fucking mounds were steep, like 45-degree angle, and it was quite big. And he'd just come in and just shout, "Mounds go." And he come to the RAF session one day and was doing like specific training, person like King of the Hill sort of stuff. And he was the people out on the front, on the floor, they was getting the back taken, and then it was like they have to escape or you have to submit. And I see him on the floor, and I was like, right, I'm fucking getting him back here. So I like got in his back, and I just literally like mouthed in his words. I was like, "This is for all them fucking mounds you made us run up." And he was like, "Yeah, fair one." So I got my own back in that way. So like, if you can't laugh in the military, then you're fucked. Really, you need to be able to like take a joke and just look at everyone else around you and be like, right, these guys are going through the same shit, so it's all right if they're doing okay. I'm going to be fine.
Now, that in itself is a really interesting sort of premise of, camaraderie and that sort of, you make it more bearable because you're there together on the same boat. But with competition and that sort of idea, as much as it's a team sport and preparation side, when it comes to you competing, you're there on your own. Do you still feel that the same level of, not, I want to say support, I want to say that kind of extra layer of support in that side of things, or is it sort of its own entity in itself?
I found that obviously if a few of you, like generally you're going to get a couple of guys from your gym that's going to be going to like the same competition. So you like organize, right, everyone's meeting at the gym. We're going to travel down together, or we'll meet you there. And everyone always tries to be Matt's side, obviously trying to shout instructions and stuff. And like I always like obviously one annoying thing I find with like competition is if obviously loads of people are obviously shouting at once, and you just want to try and listen into that one voice. And I think like when I got my purple belt competing and stuff, I used to like just tell people like, right, only you can shout, because I can't deal with like obviously so many people shouting at once. I'd rather just say, right, you tell me how many minutes are left. You're going to shout advice for what needs to do. So I still find obviously there's camaraderie within like jiu-jitsu gyms and stuff like that, but I don't think it's not on the same level as like what my job is as well, because I literally live and work with the guys at the minute, because it's like the accommodation I'm in, it's like uni hall type thing. So I literally live and work with these guys. I see them every day without fail. There's still like obviously a level of camaraderie within the jiu-jitsu gym, but it's not obviously I don't compare it to, it's not on the same level as it is within the military, especially going through like basic training or going to like Afghan and stuff like that. I don't think I can compare it to like the same as in a gym as well.
Must have say it's one of those things I feel about, it's the depth of the adversity which then enhances I don't know, the strength of the unity and the camaraderie as such. Again, with the amount you're going through in basic training versus what you go through in a jiu-jitsu school, you pay to be there. It's very, very different.
I mean, like I've got some really good friends at the gym. Like I said before, Dan Lewis is because we're very similar, we've got a very similar sense of humor. We've both like helped each other preparing for competitions and stuff. So me and him are like really good friends. Like I speak to him every day. We play fucking Call of Duty together. We'll send each of us shit videos or tag each other and stuff. So like me and Dan are like really good friends, and especially with there's like me, Dan, his girlfriend Caroline, and the kids coach, the head kids coach Ian. Like us four are like really good friends because sometimes we go like to the RAF team training together, and like we'll travel down in the car together, then we'll go like for food together and stuff whilst we're there, and like us four like really good friends. So between us four, there's camaraderie there, and there is obviously a team feeling there as well. But obviously it's just, I can't compare it to obviously what you get with like going through like basic training together and stuff, because obviously you're in some shit situations together, and obviously you've got your really good friends, but obviously it's a different thing when you're going through stuff like military basic training and stuff together.
As I say, yeah, it's different worlds in themselves. Now, regards of obviously work and your training in itself, regards of fatigue and everything else, how are you managing that? So, like, regards of what you're doing work-wise, is it quite strenuous still? Is it a lot of PT still? Is that mainly for if you're going to go overseas? How does that all balance out?
So when I was up north, that was like, so that we used to do like a lot of squadron PT together. So like on a Friday morning, we'd probably do like a loaded march or a run or battle PT, like circuits and stuff, and on top of like my own like training as well. But like now, well, especially like pre-COVID and stuff, like it depends what day it was. So like I normally, if I'm going to do 2 jiu-jitsu sessions a day, because like pre-COVID, I was like, if I was going to train at lunch, then I'd stay after lunch class, help train the kids like 4 till 6, then do the 7 o'clock till 9 o'clock class. But then we since changed it where we had like a beginner's class and then the advanced class. So I started helping out. So like it might be a full day for me where I go train at lunch, kids class, 2-hour kids classes, and then help train the white and blue belts class, then do my own training as well. So I would be in the gyms from like 12 till like 9:30 at night. But then like so that's like normally Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then Saturday class, and then a competition class on a Sunday. So like I try and put like 2 or 3 strength and conditioning sessions a week in as well. I get to a point. I started getting to a point where I could feel myself obviously getting fatigued and like really tired. And Dan had noticed it as well. It'd literally like be like mid-roll and be like, "You're tired," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fucked. I'm really fucking tired." So I take like as soon as I felt myself getting to that point where I'm like burning myself out a bit, I take like 2 or 3 days off training completely, just chill out, watch like a documentary and a couple of films or whatever, eat whatever I want, and then I'd sort of like recharge myself. Because I've got like my own strength and conditioning coach as well. If anyone's in the Buckinghamshire area, Darren Oliver coaching and the Powerhouse Club. So Darren is I used to actually work with him. He got out of the military about 1.5 years ago, I think, or a bit longer. He actually offered me like free PTs as well. So like go down to him twice a week for my strength and conditioning training. He helped me a lot. Like started noticing difference as well. Put a bit of weight on as well with that, which was quite good. But I'm definitely managing my training like a lot better because I know when I'm going to be like getting tired or burning myself out. So if I feel myself getting too burnt out, then I'll take those couple of days off, because you don't want to run yourself into the ground completely where you're just absolutely knackered. And then I think that's where like injuries started happening as well, because you get a bit, I don't know, you get not lazy, but you're not that aware, or you're not that sharp enough where you know something's going to get injured. The last thing I want is to be injured. So I need whoever wants to compete regularly, then I'd definitely say take care of yourself, because obviously you want longevity, especially within jiu-jitsu, because you don't want to have like an injury where you're going to be taken out for 6 months to a year or anything. So touch wood, I've never had that. So
With your something conditioning, how specific is it to jiu-jitsu? Is it just general like fitness and maintenance sort of stuff? Is it quite fatiguing? Is it conditioning stuff? What's it normally look like?
So it's normally like just basic like push and pull days. It's generally like a bit of everything on the both days. Normally like on the Tuesday, I normally do like I don't know, like an arm finisher or a leg finisher. But then on the Friday, I always do like a bit of an AMRAP, which are horrible, like 10, 15 minutes AMRAPs. And like I definitely noticed like my training, obviously my jiu-jitsu sparring getting a lot better, because like people couldn't like strip my grips and stuff like that, and I could feel myself like after like I don't know, like 10 rounds, like after a competition session, like you can feel yourself like because it helped with my recovery as well. Soon as I stopped after a couple of minutes, I'm like, I want to do like an extra like five rounds. I'm not feeling like I'm burnt out. So it's definitely something that I recommend, because at one point I was just doing jiu-jitsu and then like the odd circuit training like here and there. But ever since like Darren helped me out, obviously I've noticed like fitness improve with myself, and obviously because of the job, obviously they expect like a high standard of fitness anyway. So like jiu-jitsu and like strength and conditioning stuff, it obviously helps, because the only fitness requirements they want at the minute where I am is just like your standard fitness test like once a year. But obviously if I ever go back to a squadron, then there's going to be all the like loaded marches and like battle fitness, to call it, like running about with weight on and like
It's having
weapons and
that sort
stuff.
of stuff.
Yeah, all that sort of stuff. So that's definitely some. If I knew that I was obviously going back to a squadron, then obviously I'd have to concentrate on that a bit as well. But I definitely take care of myself a lot more now, like purple belt onwards. I've definitely like kept taking care of myself a lot more, because I want that longevity of training and be able to compete like a lot more as well. So it's just one thing I recognize that I need to take care of myself, otherwise it's not going to help me in the long run for competitions and stuff like that.
And just general maintenance anyway, because again, the amount of wear and tear on the body, because as much as it's something you do comfortably, it's still, joints getting extended, it's, a lot of tension and everything else. It's always important. Now, regard to like stretching and like physio and that sort of side of things, do you do much of that sort of side of things? Do you ever get sports massages? Is this you foam roll at all?
So I've got I do foam roll. I generally, the only stretching I really do is like probably at like the end of classes and stuff, where we always do it. Have like a bit of a cool down. If I feel myself like getting like little niggles, luckily we've got Dan's other half is actually a sports therapist, so she's got like her own room at the gym. So if I've ever got any little niggles or anything, like she's obviously pre-COVID and stuff, she's literally there on the mat with us, because she trains as well. So you can just ask her like, "Oh, Caroline, I've got this little niggle. Can you have a look?" The only things I've ever really had is like when my shoulders get really tight, because obviously not stretching enough, or my lower back as well, because like I've had not problems, but every now and again, like my lower back gets a little bit tight, because from when I was a roofer, obviously getting tiles and slates up on your shoulder all day obviously takes its toll, and like 60 kilos rolls of lead and stuff. So ever since I was a roofer, I've had like little niggles with my back, because obviously you're doing a lot of bending over, like doing roos and stuff. So, but luckily we've got Caroline at the gym as well. But yeah, if I ever feel myself getting tight or anything, I'll take it upon myself to do like foam rolling and salt baths as well. That's a big one.
Certainly is important. Now, most important question on the podcast, my friend, where people find you on social media?
So social media for me, Instagram is SmithGY, so SIMTHGY. We've also got obviously the RAF martial arts page as well, and then I'm just under Facebook, but generally I'm more active on Instagram as well.
Perfect. Check that out, guys, and also check out our sponsors, the English Hypnotist, Rika Clothing, and People's IT, and Fisticuffs _podcast on all social media platforms.